Does time play a role in freedom? That is, can one gradually, through time, through more knowledge, more experience, and so on, more effort, be free oneself from all limitations and all that? So, in order to inquire into it, we need to inquire into time itself. And this inquiry, if we do very carefully, we can recognize through the very inquiry the nature of freedom itself. So, time obviously is a factor in the material world. Time is a material process. So, there is the movement of day and night, the movement of seasons, years, and so on, which is all planetary movements and so on, the earth, the sun, and all the rest. And in our own planet, all material processes are caught in time, whether it be huge mountains that form and disintegrate over time, oceans that form and dry over millennia, or giant trees that grow and die in thousands of years, all the way up to small microbes that live for only a few seconds. And in this spectrum is, of course, the human organism too, the human body, which lives for a few years, maybe 100 years at most, and dies. So the body is definitely a process in time. It is born, it grows young, old, mature, eventually dies. Then there is the mind, which is the knowledge, the experiences, the intellect, the ability to think, feelings, all of this are also seen to be affected by time. So, therefore, the mind is also a material process. This is important to understand. People say mind over matter, but in reality, mind is matter. It's just subtle matter. So, all it's meant by mind over matter is subtle matter over gross matter. But the subtle matter is what is again going through time. So one can therefore learn new skills, acquire new talents, ability to think, emotions, all of this are happening in time. And all of this are found to be expressed through brain cells, neurons that are in the brain and also in other parts of the body. So it is literally a material process through matter in the form of cells and neurons. And in fact, neuroscience has a good understanding now on which neurons fire for which processes of the mind and so on. Therefore, the body and the mind, which are really both material, and that is why, in fact, the mind is also called the subtle body because it is also part of the body, it's just more subtle. So, the mind, along with the body, are processes in time going through growth and decay. And everything in time, in fact, goes through this process. In fact, that's the law of entropy, that all things eventually go into disorder and decay. Now, this being the case, we imagine there to be a self, an individual self called the ego or me, which is associated with body and mind, and therefore we feel I am journeying through time. The body is journeying through time, the mind is journeying through time, but along with it, the psyche is also imagined first as a separate entity, and then it is imagined to be journeying through time. So there is the chronological time, which is the natural movement of the sun and the planets and the whole movement of time, which is a fact. But there is also the imaginary psychological time, because the psyche is first imagined. The psyche or self or me is imagined as the mind and the body, and it is imagined to be journeying through time, which is psychological time. And then, because of this false identification with the body and mind, which gives the impression that I am a process in time, the body and the mind being processes in time, there is now the imagination, the illusion that I am also a process in time associated with the body and mind. And therefore, all the attributes of the body and the mind are taken over as mine. And because the body and the mind are limited, as well as they are inevitably decaying, they are going to disintegrate, there is both desire and fear. Desire to experience more and more, have pleasures and experiences, and fear of the end of experiencing itself. And therefore, one is having all kinds of desires and cravings and fears, which is the root of all suffering, comparison with others because of the sense of limitation, separation. And all of these are processes in time due to the core illusion of I as a process in time. Now, when this is becoming clear that everything, every experience of the body and the mind are limited, are impermanent, then there is the search for something eternal. That which is timeless, that which is eternal, that which is sacred is then made into a goal for this I who is journeying through time. So I am seeking the eternal, the timeless, the sacred. In other words, the I that is journeying through time wants to experience the timeless, know the timeless, realize the timeless. Therefore, the process of time is used to reach the timeless through studying more and more, through practicing more and more, through experiencing more and more, through the process of becoming. So, all of time is essentially becoming. The body becomes healthy, becomes sick, becomes thin, becomes fat. The mind becomes sharp, becomes dull, becomes talented in a skill, and so on. But the same process of becoming is transferred to I in relation to the timeless, and one has the goal that I will become enlightened or become free. And in this process of becoming, the I makes the timeless into another activity in time. And therefore, more and more knowledge is acquired about time, timeless, more experience is attempted through various practices and so on, through images, through all kinds of projections and so on. But in the process, the timeless is made into another artifact of time. It's become part of memory. Memory is time, and therefore, in this psychological time that is being falsely projected, the timeless has become a goal to be achieved now. And this is the fundamental fallacy that we have to see clearly. That process in time can never reach that which is timeless, because by very definition, the timeless is the source from which time itself comes forth. Therefore, just as trying to chase a mirage, the process in time, which is I, which is me, trying to realize the timeless, trying to experience the timeless, trying to become self realized, is always met with frustration, because the timeless is not to be found in time. So, when this is very clear, then we can see that timeless, that which is eternal, has to be now. It is eternal, and therefore it is always alive here and now. And all that is veiling it is this false identification with time as I, as the psyche, as the self, as the ego. So, when this is seen clearly, and further, that all the efforts this process in time, this false process called me, in time is making to realize the timeless, is only postponing to the future which will never arrive, to realize that which is now. The timeless is now, but me makes it into a goal in the future, and thereby sustains itself, perpetuates itself as a process in time, gains legitimacy that I am after something noble, something sacred, and therefore it is gaining more and more momentum as a seeker through this invention of a psychological time to realize the timeless. If we see this clearly, the inherent conundrum in this, the paradox, then the very effort to realize the timeless through time can be seen as futile. Any knowledge gained about the timeless, any experience the mind projects about the timeless, about the eternal, about the sacred, is only in time, and it comes and goes. And just as everything in time decays, all knowledge, all experience will also wither away in time. Therefore, when all this is seen clearly, that one can never come upon the timeless through time, that recognition is surrender. The process in time, when it recognizes its limitation, that it is only meant for things that are doable in time, learning a new skill, acquiring a new language, making the body healthy, all of these are within the purview of time. But that which is timeless is completely inaccessible to the process in time. When this is seen clearly, the limitation of the process in time, then that is surrender. When that surrender happens, effort to realize the timeless goes away. And when the effort drops, what is here is the timeless. Because when the effort drops, the me also drops. The me is nothing but the effort to achieve through time. As we already noted, the body and the mind go through time, and there can be effort, there can be becoming and all that. But there is no entity, me or psyche or self associated with the body and mind. The moment we assume and presume that there is a me, there is a self, then the body and the mind become instruments to further the desires and the fears of this imaginary me. And when those desires and fears are frustrated, the me wants to come upon the timeless. So, having dropped all efforts towards temporary desires and cravings, and now recognizing the complete inability of recognizing that which is timeless through any process in time, the me has no ground to stand on. It is an illusion, it is a fiction, and when its limitation is seen clearly in this way, then there is no me left, there is no time left within. Time still functions in the body and in the mind for its natural and healthy ways of living, but inwardly there is no psyche, no self, no ego. The false imagination that there is a separate entity who can then come upon the timeless. When the effort is dropped, when true surrender thus happens, when the process imagined to be in time, that is me, is dropped, then what is now is the timeless, which is sacred, which is divine, and in which all processes in time, such as the body, the mind, the planet, the whole of creation, functions perfectly in harmony, each left to their own devices. So the inquiry into time, therefore, can clearly reveal to us the freedom that is here and now, not as something to become, but the very being. Being is never realized through becoming. So when becoming is put in its right place, which is only for material processes and not mixed with being, and thereby the false separate psyche or me is dropped, then the inherent and eternal being shines forth as the freedom that is ever here and now.